Hello, I'm Chris Williams, and I'm here with a review of Spider-Man Life Story Issue 3. Now we're in the 80s. The cover by Chip Zdarsky, I still can't believe he's actually a bit of an artist too, has Spider-Man in his black costume obviously in a homage to the original Kraven's Last Hunt, where he's in a coffin. Well, a spider spins down on its one string of webbing, and there are missiles also strung up in webbing. It's a good cover. I definitely like it than the other two, the cover in issue 1 and issue 2. Though it's all pink as well, because it's in one color, because Chip Zdarsky apparently has a plan to do this all in color and have his issues color coded. And we open up with Mary Jane. She's now pregnant, and she's going to give birth to twins. And she's sad because Peter has disappeared. Her pregnancy, where she's going to give birth, happens directly during Secret Wars. I gotta tell you, Mark Bagley's art is on point. And we open up to the Secret Wars itself, where it shows Captain America is pretty much back in America's good graces again, I'm assuming. The X-Men and Fantastic Four are in the background. Well, I've learned that the Fantastic Four broke up. The Invisible Woman is now married to Namor, apparently. And we see, Dr. Octopus apparently is turned into a villain again, because he's fighting Spider-Man. And we have Spider-Man, who's just been talking to Reed Richards while he's been repairing his costume. It's all torn up and tattered, and it looks like he's wearing more and more armor now than he did back in the 70s. He comes across Thor and Hulk, and Thor tells him, "You look like a shambles, man." And Spider-Man responds with, "Well, not all of us have God-given threads." But Thor tells him that there's a machine that will repair or give you a new costume back there. So Spider-Man goes back there. He puts on the machine, and he thinks he's getting a new costume. He finds this black ball. He thinks it's its new costume, and it is his new costume. But it's also a bit more than that, because it's actually the symbiote. So it gives Spider-Man his black and white costume. At first he doesn't know, like in the original Secret Wars, that it's actually alive. When he gets back to Earth after Secret Wars, we can see him web spinning away in his black and white costume, and he heads directly home, worried about Mary Jane and about the babies, as well as his Aunt May. Aunt May has developed Alzheimer's or dementia. I'm not quite sure which. They don't really specify it. But Spider-Man goes home. He enters his house, and apparently in a secret entrance or an apartment. At first, Mary Jane is freaked out when she sees Spider-Man. Pretty much a callback to Spider-Man 200, or was it 300? When Eddie Brock, the original Venom, appeared in front of her, threatening her. And we see Spider-Man, Peter Parker, without the costume on, and Peter looks older, far older. I mean, he's probably in his late 30s here, but he looks like he's near 50. Apparently, that's a really good thing, because it shows he's had a really hard and rough life. Mary Jane is happy to see him, and Peter Parker notices something behind her, a cradle with 2 babies in it. He finds out that she's already delivered, and that their twins are right there and sleeping. He goes over to look at them, and he's so happy and he's so sad, saying, "Mary Jane, I'm so sorry for not being there for you and them." Later on, time passes. We see Reed Richards working alongside Peter Parker again, and there's been something happened during Secret Wars. And Russia attacked America with a nuclear weapon, and apparently the Vision was able to divert it from New York, but part of America has been destroyed, irradiated with nuclear radiation. So the Avengers are now attacking Russia. And also that some guy is now going around dressed as Spider-Man shooting people. He tells him he knows that his costume is alive and that it's an alien symbiote. Here we come back to Peter Parker, who goes home in a rush, where he learns Aunt May disappeared with his 2 newborn children. There was no problem. The police were able to locate Aunt May, and the 2 kids are all right. The 2 police officers tell him, "Call us again if any more trouble happens to you and your family." Later on, Peter Parker has his symbiote get off of him, and he goes back out in his regular costume because he needs a little time to think after what happened with Aunt May. Mary Jane suggested they put her in a home, and we see Mary Jane with one of their babies looking up as Spider-Man swings off to go have his me time and to think about what has happened. Spider-Man hits a rooftop when suddenly he's greeted by that doppelganger who's wearing a manufactured version of his black costume. And that guy is pointing a gun at him. A single-shot rifle. Peter Parker, Spider-Man, comments on that. It really doesn't matter, though, because the guy who gets the drop on him is a villain we've seen before. And as I said in the cover for this issue, how it's a homage to Kraven's Last Hunt. Yes, that guy in Spider-Man's costume is Kraven. He manages to both shoot Spider-Man and stab him with a knife with a sedative on it. He's angry that his country is at war with America right now, but even though he says he's lived in America for the last 20 years and that it's basically his home now, he says he has things to do and he needs Spider-Man out of his way. And he has one of his accomplices, one of his henchmen, bury the unconscious Spider-Man in a grave. The writing here in this issue is good. Chip Zdarsky is a good writer. I'm really enjoying this issue, but I think it's a little... Is it better or worse than the last issue? It's a good issue, and I really like it, but I really dislike what he's done with Kraven's Last Hunt. It has all the beats to it. Then again, I've never actually read Kraven's Last Hunt. It just seems like he's taking a little too much away from it. Here, Spider-Man is digging his way out of his grave. The symbiote came and saved him. Apparently, somehow, it felt Peter Parker was in trouble. So, it goops all over him in his grave, and we see a familiar shape. Spider-Man looks far bulkier, and you almost see his mouth. It looks like he's turning into Venom. See, Spider-Man told Reed Richards he needs the costume because he's getting older and he's beginning to slow down. And he didn't want to bond with it. He has a plan with Mary Jane to stop it from happening. Here we see Kraven threatening a bunch of criminals who are robbing this guy. But the guy he was trying to help, including the criminals, run off when they see something directly behind Kraven. Kraven looks behind him. And of course, you know who it is. It's Spider-Man. But he's beginning to transform. And where we saw his mouth before, where it was like something covering it, now it's turned metamorphosized into Venom's familiar fangs. The Spider Venom, I'll call him right now, nearly kills Kraven. But before that, Mary Jane shows up with a sonic disruptor, and Spider-Man says. Well, Spider-Venom says, "You know what to do. Blast me." What happens next is that Mary Jane manages to drive the symbiote off of him. But after that, she can't take any more of this, so she leaves with her two babies, leaving Spider-Man to deal with him being alone again, as well as his Aunt May, who is now suffering from dementia. And this is how the issue ends. I won't tell you what happens at the very end. I'll leave that as a surprise for the next review of Spider-Man Life Story. But this has been good. I'm really enjoying it. Now, if you like this review, subscribe. Make sure you're subscribed. Also, subscribe if you haven't subscribed before. I would really like to have have you join me and hit that bell for notifications so you know what happens when I release my own independent comic book, Scumdogs. And leave a like and leave some comments down below. I'm Chris Williams, and I'm signing out for the night.